if they could help us. And I remember that first morning I saw General McAuliffe, you know, he later became very famous when he told the Germans nuts that we weren't going to surrender. But I did see him in that morning. He was a one-star general, and they told us where we could hopefully get some help. And then we did a strange thing after we left the 101st Airborne. We went to church. You could hear the artillery sounds. It looked like they were getting closer and closer. And my friend who was with me was a devout Catholic, and he said, "This is our last day on earth. We're not going to survive today. So I'm going to make peace with my Maker." So we went to a Catholic church, and I became a Catholic for one day when we went to church. But it was an eventful week. We found out later on that we were surrounded by the Germans. Everybody laughed when we heard General McAuliffe's reply, "Nuts." We all thought, that's not what he said. He said something else, probably. But earlier this week, we stayed at the Pescador Foundation, where General Patton had his headquarters. And at that time, we were read a prayer that General Patton wrote in response to his frustration over the very bad weather that we had had day after day. And he asked his chaplains, "What can we do about this?" And they said, "Well, this is just the way it is. This time of year, it's always going to be overcast." So he composed a prayer. He said, "I'm going to a higher authority." So he asked God for 4 days of good weather. That's all he wanted. And I think the prayer wasn't dated. I believe it was on the 22nd of December, 1944. And the next morning, miraculously, the skies cleared. It was a beautiful, sunny day. Totally, it was a miracle. It really was. And so they could supply, airlift some supplies to us. And so I think that's why I'm alive today, and why my daughter is with me. And she's with me, because later on, even though General McAuliffe had said no, we weren't going to surrender, some of our senior officers later said that if the weather had not cleared that day, we probably would have been forced to surrender. So I'm happy that I'm here and happy to be with you. So we'll entertain some questions, I guess.
Maybe you could just shortly explain us what the job was of the engineers. What was your particular job in the engineers? What do the engineers do in general out on the battlefield?
Well, I was in charge of supplying, basically. That was my primary function. Make sure we had enough supplies, which was not always easy. But I was at a headquarters platoon of a line company, C company. And incidentally, I have some pictures. I'll drop these on the table. If any of you are interested, you can take one. This is what I looked like in February of 1946, right after I got out of the Army. And so I'll leave these on the table.
Can I see it again, Phil? I didn't believe it the first time. Can you hold it up one more time?
Okay.
They didn't believe it either.
Okay.
Thank you.
Been a few changes since that time. Craig Charlton got these pictures. I don't know where he got them from, but anyway.
I got them from you.
You're welcome to.
Phil, I got them from you.
You got them from
I got the original picture from you.
Okay.
And I
guess
made the
that's right.
print. That's
yeah,
right.
All right. Okay. So do any of you have any questions that you would like to address to Bob and myself?
I think there is a microphone passing around, but I'm not sure if we need it, so if you speak up loud enough.
Don't be bashful. Anything that occurs to you.
You can ask in Luxembourgish and I will translate, okay?
Don't be afraid to make any mistakes while speaking English. Don't be afraid.
you been standing in Bastogne? How long
How
were
long
you
did we stay?
where?
I arrived, well, I guess for the two.
Microphone? Microphone?
17th or 18th of December. 17th or 18th of December. And I stayed until approximately January 10th. I was evacuated to the hospital. So, you know, it was almost a month. And it was a little cold. It was a lot of snow and stuff like that. And we had a lot of trouble keeping warm. I was rather fortunate. I don't know how familiar you are with the town itself, but the headquarters of the 10th Armored were in the Hotel de Brune, which was right on the square. And my wire platoon, there was 8 of us, were across the street. They said you could sleep there, and it was some old building. So we were fortunate to have a shelter over our heads, but there were no facilities, of course, in the building for us. But that's the period of time I was there.
Maybe just a few words about the historical context. The Battle of the Bulge, or the Battle of the Ardennes, officially started on Saturday, December 16th at 5:30 in the morning, when the German armies attacked the American positions on the Luxembourgish-German border. The main objective of the offensive was to take the port of Antwerp with all the American supplies, so that the Germans would have been able to make the war last longer. One smaller objective was the town of Bastogne, because it's simply crossroads of major roads that go through the Ardennes, and that's why the Germans simply really badly needed to take and hold the city of Bastogne. The American commanders, of course, after two days were able to see what the offensive, where it went, and so they realized that they had to start blocking the German offensive around Bastogne, and that's why the 10th Armored Division and the 101st Airborne Division, along with other units, were sent to Bastogne to simply hold that key position. And because the Germans wanted and really needed to take the city, they surrounded the American troops that were fighting in and around Bastogne, and that's why the battle around Bastogne lasted for about a month. Whereas